Hello.
My name is Jamie.
And I'm Brenda.
And this is our Siop lesson plan for Edsc 410 on protein synthesis. Basically the lesson is a 11th grade biology class lesson about protein synthesis, the central dogma. We're going to be using text, a YouTube video, handouts, a codon chart that the students will manipulate, and we'll also be supporting students with sentence starters and rubrics.
So the content standards are construct an explanation based on evidence for how the structure of DNA determines the structure of proteins which carry out the essential functions of life through systems of specialized cells. And the second one is develop and use a model to illustrate the hierarchical organization of interacting systems that provide specific functions within multicellular organisms.
So the Common Core literacy standards are to write informative texts for scientific procedures or experiments, and also to initiate and participate effectively in a range of collaborative discussions.
So the ELD standards are pretty much to be able to write summaries about the texts and about experiences in the classroom.
So our two objectives for this lesson are, for our content objective, we want the students to be able to summarize the process of transcription and translation by creating a paragraph. We want them also to be able to define in writing the difference between the words transcription and translations, which are part of protein synthesis, as well as summarize the overall process.
So some key words that we're going to teach them explicitly are RNA, DNA, transcription and translation, central dogma, amino acid, etc.
So to start off the lesson, the teacher is actually going to bring in a real dog. This is our pretend real dog for the video. We have a therapy dog that we would have the teacher bring in to increase engagement and activate background knowledge for students, because we are going to be synthesizing the characteristics of a dog based on its DNA sequence. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is introduce a fun thing. We're going to go over the content and language objectives, write them on the board, and also the vocabulary will go on the board and be discussed in the very beginning. Then we're going to have the students start to brainstorm. So what they're going to do is create a word map with the word protein synthesis in the middle, and they'll just kind of draw lines and think about anything they already know about protein synthesis. So then they'll think, pair, share those ideas that they have for about 5 minutes, and write down their vocabulary words in their science notebook.
So for the body of the lesson, we're going to start off with a brief video. And as they watch, students are going to add to their word map using a different colored pen. That way they know what was part of prior knowledge and what was part of the video.
And after the video, they'll be reading a textbook passage about the process of protein synthesis. And then we also have an additional article that's for advanced learners, so they'll be reading one or the other.
So the second part is the protein synthesize your dog assignment. And basically students will be grouped in table groups of 4, and each table is going to get a series of DNA sequences. And as a group, they're going to transcribe it into the RNA and into the amino acids. And then using the codon and amino acid charts, they're going to figure out what traits their dogs have. And they're going to color the handout too. And each DNA sequence corresponds to one trait. And each table group should end up with the same dog.
Do you want to do an example for this one?
Yeah, so these are the handouts that that they're gonna get. Firstly, it's the DNA like sequencing one, and they have to with their groups they have to transcribe it and translate it. So I have like an example here. So by now they know that T corresponds with A, and A with U, and C with G. And so going along, you just continue with the like sequence.
So this is the process of transcription, which the students have already read about and watched a video about. So they'll be able to do this process with complementary base pairing from that information. Once they've completed the sequence for the trait, they can use the codon chart.
Yeah, so they will use the codon chart to go from RNA to amino acid. So for example, for the first one, it's AUG. So we go to the chart and we look for A, and then U, and then G, and that is met, and it's also a start codon. And then they will just continue with the sequence until they have the polypeptide. Okay, so they will also have access to these completed examples. That way they know kind of what to expect and what their dog and what their handouts should look like when they turn them in at the end.
So once they have completed a whole row of amino acids, they'll use this handout
Yes.
and position and see what rows that match corresponds with their rows to distinguish what colors, fur color, fur length, fur style, eye color, and tail style that they'll be coloring their model, their dog model on this handout.
Yeah. So in this.
Sorry.
So in the example, the dog ended up with brown eyes, wavy hair, medium fur, brown fur, and a short tail. So they kind of vary based on the sequences, and each table group is going to have a different one. So they should all have different looking dogs.
Perfect. So the summary paragraph is the assignment that they'll do at the very end of the lesson. Is they're on their own will write a summary, a 2-paragraph summary of protein synthesis, including all of the domain-specific vocabulary words will be used in this paragraph. They'll ensure to include all the steps of translation and transcription, and we also will include sentence starters for English learners and striving readers. And this is an example.
Yeah, so like transcription is, translation is, etc. And the rubric for the model and the summary is here, and they will all have access to it. That way they know exactly what to do and what is going to be an excellent paper versus a not so good paper.
So for the closure of the lesson, the teacher will review and highlight all the key points and vocabulary that was learned today in the lesson. They will remind the students of the language and content objectives and to see if they've been met by kind of discussing and having discussion with the class, assessing their responses to the teacher's questions. The students will listen and have a chance to ask questions, get clarification on any concepts that they weren't clear about, and make sure that that's all cleared up.
And so adaptations for English learners, they will each type of student will read an adapted paragraph with like definitions and different words. And then students will also have the option of writing their summary in bullet point form instead of a full like paragraph. And they will also have additional time to complete the assignments. And the teacher will summarize the key points in the text. That way everybody knows exactly what is in there. And students will be grouped based on their proficiency levels, and they will be encouraged to write or speak in their L1 too.
So adaptations for striving readers, as we mentioned before, they'll have sentence starters, and they'll have also access to the adapted text that includes the definitions to some of the more difficult vocabulary terms. They'll have additional time to work on the assignment without being penalized, and they'll also be provided a word bank to help them with the summary and highlight major ideas and key concepts, and vocabulary words will be kind of highlighted for them in their text.
And students with special needs will have the option to watch a video instead of reading the text passage. And they will also be given additional time, and they will have access to the sentence starters in order for them to be able to write the paragraph effectively.
And for our advanced students in the class, they'll have an opportunity to read a more challenging text article, What is Protein Synthesis? From proteinsynthesis.org. It has great flow and structure of describing protein synthesis, but without the supports from the diagrams and illustrations and highlights. So these are for the students that have a really good concept of DNA replication already, and they would read this article instead of the textbook passage that we have.
So for entry-level assessments, at the beginning of the class, students will be able to activate their prior knowledge by using the word map and by brainstorming about what they already know. Additionally, they will be engaging in a class discussion, and that will allow the teacher to give immediate feedback to make sure that everyone's on the right page.
Progress monitoring assessment. So for the formative assessment, the students are going to be working in their groups on their activity, and the teacher will be walking around, asking questions, observing, giving immediate informal feedback as they're working on the project to make sure they're on the right track and they're doing the right thing and they're understanding the concepts as they go.
So for the summative assessment, this will make sure that students have met the content and language objectives for this lesson, and they will have to complete the summary paragraph explaining the main ideas of protein synthesis and also incorporate what they did in class with the dog and in their table groups and whatnot. And the teacher will read the summaries and will provide feedback the following day, and she will determine if the students have met the like objectives for the lesson, and if they did, they will continue with like mutations the next day. If not, the teacher will go over the process again and engage them with another activity to make sure that they understand.
Great. So that's it for our Siop lesson plan. We had a great time. This is a good experience developing this lesson. Do you have anything else?
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.